welcome. It's another Saturday and it's just 5 minutes past 4. Apologies for the late, for coming on here late. It rarely happens, so we apologize for that. Well, you know how we do it every Saturday. We come here to you with a very youth-inclined program, The Missing Link, proudly facilitated by the How to Build Initiative, a team whose primary goal is to drive a holistic development of the youth. They are an NGO, of course, and they are youth-based. First of all, to drive holistic and also to drive a very, very major and stable, solid development for the youths. My name is Dara, and of course, you know how we do it. Last week Saturday, we couldn't speak to you because you already know what last week Saturday was the gubernatorial and national State House of Assembly elections. So we decided to give you the situation room reports straight from all polling units across the state and across the country. So we decided to leave out Missing Link last week, but we are back this week, and of course, you know it's going to be post-election matters moving on, and of course all the happenings from the election period. So joined by me in the studio is Onyinye Rafwachuku, one of the founders of the How to Build Initiative, right here with us. Welcome. Good evening, Onyinye. How are you?
Good evening, Dara. Welcome, listeners. We've gone 6 minutes past 4, and you're going to make it up. Hope you know that.
I'll think about it.
No, we're not going to court. You're going to make it up right here.
I'll think about it. Maybe I can just give you like maybe 2 minutes or 3.
It's good to be back. Welcome.
All right. So today we're not going to be speaking to Father, but of course,
but he's listening.
He's listening. But we're going to be making it up. We have a guest who, of course, I'm going to introduce to you minutes from now. So you might want to keep it locked for that one. All right, Tony. I want to ask you, how was your voting last week?
Well, it was so good.
You voted?
Yeah, I did. I voted. I needed to vote.
Yeah, you needed to vote.
I needed to vote. It was an obligation I owed. My conscience, myself, then government. So I did cast my vote, and like I did say last Saturday, it was well organized than what we had on,
as compared to what
we had on February 25th. You know, it's like people learning from mistakes. You know, I wouldn't say that it was a perfect exercise, but it was also near to perfect. People came out to vote, but again, there was so much voter apathy. People didn't actually come out, maybe because of what happened on 25th February. They seem to have lost confidence in the system. But those of us who felt like, no, you know, our keyword for this year is Kwechiri. We need to move on. We need to move on and go to our various polling units and cast our votes. What I saw that day was quite encouraging. It was more orderly. You know, the rush we had on 25th February wasn't there. We had people come in, they were giving tallies like number by number, and they were called in twos. I mean, it was beautiful. And the beavers, I don't think I heard any story about beavers last Saturday. I don't know the magic that happened. But the truth is that people came out to vote. Even the environment for voting, we had like canopies to shield people from sun or rain. And the crop of people I saw as INEC ad hoc staff were different from what I saw on 25th February. So I think there was a significant change or kind of overhaul of what INEC was doing to give us a better service. So I think it was good. It was good. Let's give it to them. They tried to an extent. It worked for us. Just that people that came out, the registered voters, people that actually voted, were not the number we had. I mean, that was just the only reason. Yeah,
like you said, it wasn't a perfect exercise, but you would give it a pass.
Yeah, sure.
A pass, and being compared to the presidential and national assembly election.
Exactly.
Okay, so you said there were no hocus pocus, or there was no how do I put it? There was no distraction or disruption in the process of the beavers.
Well, in my own polling unit, I can actually speak for my own polling unit. I heard some other funny things happen in some units, but for mine, I don't think I had that incident. But by and large, it was good.
So speaking of voter apathy, how was the youth turnout? Youths in particular.
You see them coming like lousily, like reluctantly, as if someone is pushing them to go
like
and
people
vote.
Who are in despair.
Yeah, you saw that despair on their faces. So those of them that came out, for me, it meant a lot that these people actually, they meant business. They wanted to vote. But on the average, a lot of young people did not vote. Apparently because of what happened the last exercise, and they lost confidence in the system. You know, a place where you voted and your number was 10, and what you saw in IREP was another thing. I mean, that was quite discouraging. I'm not here to indict INEC, but I'm just speaking for what happened, what we saw. And when you ask people questions, what am I going to, you know, that kind of response. But again, Some people defied that. They didn't want to be discouraged. They thought it was the honest light on them to perform this civic responsibility, and they came all out to do that. So we still had young persons who came out, and when they came out, they stayed to the end. Like, they don't want stories that touch their heart. Yeah.
Okay, since we're speaking about youth, I'm going to use this opportunity to introduce the topic. So we're going to be talking about Nigerian youth as heroes of 2023 elections.
Exactly.
And we cannot overemphasize or underemphasize the role that the young people played. I mean, this from last year up until now, INEC has recorded the highest number of PVC collections, and more than 50% of that collection was by the youths.
Exactly.
And they didn't just collect and sit at home, they also massively came out. What do you think the slacking or the backwardness of the economy was a drive? Number one. Number two, did the backwardness start today? What made them wake up this time around?
Well, I think, it gets to a point in your life, you can't take it any longer. I think it was a systemic issue. So there was this systemic failure. People lost confidence in the government and the people who are leading us. I mean, you find a situation where, okay, you had change. We had Naira, the currency, some of the denominations were changed. And still you can't find them. But you find some persons who are still holding this currency. Okay, issues of insecurity here and there being mentioned. Students have been on strike or rather suffered setbacks due to strike. And some persons are being owed salaries. People who are working. The system is not just working. And people felt, enough is enough. And everybody came out and said, since this is the only power we have to change our leaders, I'm going to come out. Again, I also think that, when you find some of the candidates that came out, one particular person, I'm not going to mention his name, actually thrilled the youth because of what he said, the confidence, he kind of got up from the youths. The way he spoke, he was like at home with what was happening, and people didn't want to see all these people that have been hearing their names. They've been in the system. What have you done for us? So we need a change, and they have come to understand that the only change, the only power you had was your permanent voters card.
Yeah.
So people had to come out. And remember, government also helped us by giving those holidays so that wherever you find yourself, please go home and don't have any excuse of not voting. And the young people, remember, we have always heard, when I was growing up, I heard that youths are the leaders of tomorrow. I'm sure that axiom has ended. Youths are the leaders of today.
Yeah.
Yes, we need to have those people who were our past leaders, but they haven't really done so well. And so people are like, no, we need to change. And if we want to change, we have the power to change these people. So if we come out in the numbers, after all, election is about number. So I think that's actually what played out. Yeah.
Okay, so right now we're going to be joined by our virtual guest. Her name is Princess Namaka Okafor. She is a digital brand developer, youth advocate, and a media consultant, CEO of MPB Meds.
Don't
yes. Or you might also know her as Makisha Batel. So she's joining us right now virtually on the show. Welcome to the show.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Good to be here.
Yeah,
you can feel her voice.
To you too. So, so do you prefer I address you as Namaka Princess or Makisha? Which do you prefer?
Makisha is fine.
Oh, Makisha is fine. All right. So, Makisha, welcome to the show. Like we're talking about the youths and the major role they played in the 2023 elections. So, we're going to start by your own personal experience as a youth. You also fall into this category. So, how was your experience? Turning down from the 25th February polls down to the 18th March. How was your experience? How can you rate it? How can you describe it if you were asked to?
Wow, it's been amazing. The whole world can be a witness that 2023 elections is not business as usual. It's a one-of-a-kind election. It's not something that Nigeria has seen since its history. And you can see the drive and the determination of the youths all across Nigeria to salvage the nation. The atmosphere across Nigeria for the youth is a no retreat, no surrender situation right now for all of us. So the one message keeps coming up every now and then, which is a new Nigeria is possible. And that's the key message youths all across Nigeria were determined to rewrite. Personally, this is the first time I actually went for a political campaign. I've never actually been. I go for events, concerts and stuff. But all the youths, including the ones that were non-partisans, INEC could also testify to the fact that you had 11 million new voters that had never voted before in Nigeria's history. So everybody is involved, We're no longer leaving our destinies in the hands of these leaders. We're saying, no, what's going on here? We want to know what's up. Yeah, so you can see how the narrative has changed completely on the political playing field. It's all about competence. It's all about credibility. That has never happened before in the history of Nigeria. And we have situations of where you have like like an army person who was on for example, Labour Party. He was on Labour Party campaign council, and because he didn't support the youth during the NSAS, they had to remove him from the campaign council. That is accountability from our leaders like we've never seen before. And I'm really impressed because he was actually forced to resign. He was asked to step down because the youths were like, this person didn't speak for us during NSAS. This person wasn't on the side of the youth, so we don't want him on our team, basically. So you see, that's a complete accountability coming from our leaders for the first time, where people are asked to take responsibility for their mishaps, irrespective of the fact that they were acting based on maybe some order from above. But we also had I engaged a couple of youths in Enugu where I voted as well, and I had some situation where some people kept saying things like, actually, we don't even, yes, we care about competence, but right now we're even more interested about putting people into power that we can remove. We want to put in a political party that when they mess up, we're going to drag them online. We're going to hold them accountable. Exactly.
All right. So
I like that one.
Speaking of Enugu, hopefully you don't get to drag anybody. Speaking of Enugu, you voted for the presidential, right?
Yes, I did.
And you also voted for the governorship and State House of Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
Of course I did.
All right. So comparing the turnout between the two elections, would you say that the happenings and the aftermath of the presidential and the National House of Assembly elections, would you say that the aftermath of that particular day's polls affected the youth turnout for the governorship and State House of Assembly, aka voter apathy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so well, I think we have to divide the population into two. For some people, it was a drive, and some people were now stirred up to come out to vote for the governorship election, because on the presidential side, a lot of people lost hope, but on the House of Reps part of it, for the first time, we saw people that just carelessly bought tickets going into power. A lot of people kept saying, is that how easy it is for me to become a House of Reps member? I didn't know it was this easy. So there was two things happened. People that voted for the presidential elections were stirred up and fired up. For the first time, the youth actually believe that their votes count. Let's forget what happened, on the presidential, but on the local level, the youths now there was like a whole paradigm shift.
Makisha, I want to find out. Look at the turnout during the presidential election and that of the gubernatorial. And did anything change?
Yes, there was a division in terms of the turnout. Mm-hmm. You had more people. I'm sure you had people that didn't even vote during the presidential come out. Mm-hmm. And then you had people that voted during the presidential election that lost hope, that stayed back at home. So you see, there was kind of like a mix or a swap somewhere in between. Mm-hmm. Because the people that stayed at home during the presidential elections were like, wow, you mean all these people entered the House of Reps joining a party that was just formed like in 6 months' time? So they were like, man, I'm coming out for the governorship elections. Like, actually do count. Exactly.
All right. So Makisha, I want to take it that maybe on this show you will try to be non-partisan as possible.
Exactly, no mention of any.
All right. Yes, thank you so much for that. All right, so we're going to go for a quick message right now from the facilitators of this program. When we come back, of course, we'll discuss more and still throw more light as to how the youths of this generation, they call themselves the Sorosoke generation, speak louder. We'll speak about how they are the heroes of the 2023 election polls. Speak more on that, draw a conclusion, and call it a day. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. This is still the Missing Link. This is 20 minutes past 4 p.m. This is Flow 94.9 FM. Missing Link is proudly sponsored by the Heart to Build Initiative, an NGO whose primary goal is to drive a holistic development of the youth. And today we're talking about the aftermath of the 2023 polls from the presidential down to the State House of Assemblies, and talking about how the Nigerian youth showed up and showed out. It was an amazing one, I must say, despite the lapses, and we're talking to Onyera Fwachuku, one over two of the founders of the Heart to Build Initiative, initiative, and of course speaking to a digital brand developer, youth advocate and media consultant Makisha Batel, or Princess Nneamaka, whichever one you want to address her, but we're calling her Makisha on this show. So right, moving on, we've been throwing accolades, speaking about how well the youth turned out, the highest level of PVC collection recorded in Nigeria's history, and of course first time voters as well. Let's not ignore the fact that the 11 million is not old PVCs. It's just new people who voted for the first time. I met a lot of them when I moved around the different polling units. A lot of them are in their late 20s, early 30s, and they are voting for the first time. Yes, so we have to know that first of all is a very heroic move, and we cannot ignore that. But then, despite throwing all these accolades, can we still talk about are there still any places or any points or any parts where the Nigerian youths are still lagging and might need a little bit of improvement on? Makisha, do you think there's still any point or any part where the Nigerian youths have not gotten it right yet? And because there's room for improvement, are there any single points that you can be able to throw more light on so we get to know?
Okay. I think basically when it comes to holding our leaders accountable, and when it comes to transparency, these words we don't hear them often, but thanks to the youth, we're beginning to hear those kind of, our leaders are beginning to use those words often when making us promises from time to time. So, I believe our unity has been fortified. I've not seen the Nigerian youth this united since, I think, the whole NSAS issue, and I really applaud the youth. So I think the places I feel the youth need to work on is on when it comes to when the leaders try to sow a seed of discord. I think we should be able to see through all those shenanigans that are being planted by selfish politicians to try to get us to be divided, and we should just keep on pushing, because it's obvious that our destinies are in our hands. We should focus on taking back Nigeria, taking back our destiny into our own hands, yes, and try as much as possible to reflect the will of the people coming after us, because the people ahead of us have failed us, and then we are right here. This is our time. This is our moment. This is our generation. It is now. The time is now to get it right.
Yeah,
if we don't get it right.
Yeah, speaking about discord and disunity, that is going to make me ask this very sensitive question. Despite the fact that the youths are bracing up right now, taking the bull by the horn, we cannot forget the fact that there was a major play out in this just concluded polls. Towards the end, we saw a very high level of tribalism, although we do not know we do not know how that came up or the foundation of it, but you see that it was mostly fueled by youths. Sadly enough, very sad, it is very disappointing that we know that this tribalism thing is even non-existent, because I do not think there is any African country that has the highest rate of intertribal marriages like Nigeria. You hear names like Chioma Adeleke, you hear names like Ifunanya Adejoke. Yes, this was not there, but then it grew when these elections came up, and we cannot deny the fact that the youth fell for this bait. They fell hook, line, and sinker. Don't you think that is a malfunction from the parts of the youths? I mean, throwing that kind of tribalism card. You see people who have been friends for years, a Yoruba and an Igbo boy, begin to fight each other because of the election aftermath. So what do you think we can be able to do to throw this particular virus into the deepest part of the abyss? Tribalism did not play out when the youths got united for the NSAS protest. You saw beautiful scenes where Muslims were sweeping the ground of churches, Christians were sweeping the floor for Muslims to have their Friday prayers. So how do you think that came back in the election period and made a mess of the whole beautiful process that the youths were on already? What do you think can be done about that?
Okay, well, like you said, some people fell for it, people that are emotional, but some of us could actually see through, I call it the shenanigans, because the old order, like I like to call them, they know they've lost. So I feel this is like their last card, and it's so pathetic that that's the card they have to play, basically, So unfortunately, the track record that most of our politicians have left behind is nothing worthy of emulation. So I want to also use this medium to applaud to the youth that are able to sieve through the tribalism, and of course, if a few of the youths made themselves available to be used as tools to propagate tribalism. But some of us are laughing behind the scene because we're like, is this it? You guys know, like, you're done for. We can see through you. We can see through you and the last card you're playing at this moment. And it's quite a shame, if you ask me, because you have a situation where the leaders, the so-called experienced leaders that ought to be setting the pace, they're now emulating us. We're now the ones saying, okay, move this way, turn this way, do this way. Okay, how do we help? How do we work on our diversity and inclusion? How do we make sure that other tribes are represented? How, like, the conversations, if you go on Twitter, the conversations happening there, you would just see that, I mean, these guys are basically lost, because a lot of us, especially Twitter, I hope they don't ban Twitter again, hopefully. But we can actually see through them.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, we actually, hopefully and prayerfully, they don't ban it. So asking in conclusion now, you might want to be of the opinion that it's a minority percentage of the youth who are being affected by the tribalism, but what do they say about the rotten fruits? It corrupts the other ones in the basket. It just takes time. So even if you feel it's 2% of the entire youth population, what do you think can be done to get it to turn the leaf of that 2%? Just so at least it gets better. Maybe not totally better, but at least 50% eradication of that tribalism card, because it's a very dangerous card if we do not take time. So what do you think can be done?
Okay, beautiful one. Okay, well, I think at this point, the message to the youth remains one single thing, which is everybody needs to be focused, stay on our agenda, which is we need to fix Nigeria. A new Nigeria is possible, basically. That's the message we're passing across. And we need to get our leaders to be more accountable. So I feel let us rise above the whole tribalism
sentiment,
and unite like never before. Because whether we like it or not, it's more like it's our generation, basically. This is our fight. All this while we left our destiny in their hands, and then it was as if we woke up from sleep and everyone said, "Yeah, okay, Tetenola, these guys ain't gonna do nothing for us, So we have to take charge." So if they still think these people have their best interest at heart, I'm really sorry. So I'm using this medium to talk to the youth out there and tell them that we have a long way to go. We have a very long way to go. I mean, look at economies like America, Canada, Australia. Every day they're giving out scholarships. They want the best brains to come into their workforce and make their economy better and boost their economy. So I think they should shift their focus from Nigeria to emulate what is happening like internationally on the scene, to see that, I mean, it's for me, it's myopic, it's archaic, it's what do you call it? It's absurd and it's shameful that I would, in this age and in this time, be caught up in an argument where I'm having to decide between competence and tribe, or credibility and tribe. We're talking about fixing Nigeria right now, and that should be our focus. Nothing more, nothing less.
Well said.
So that's what I have to say.
Well said. So let's talk about the tribalism. Maybe 1 or 2 minutes. What do you think can be done?
Well, the issue is that I like what Makisha said. Let's not actually, when you talk about this, you're making it very popular. That's the way I think. Some people try to whip up that sentiment, and I think the same youths are also fighting it, even though some persons among the youths were actually stirred up, but some other youths are also fighting that. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, Nigeria is for everyone. We have a nation very big, and by the way, there is so much beauty in diversity, and you don't have it all. You don't have it all. If you don't begin to appreciate that, you don't allow someone who is short-sighted to play that card. It doesn't make sense. So just like Makisha said, let's stay focused on the cause. I mean, tribal sentiments, that person that is telling you, behind, in short, in his house, he has some other person, he's from the other tribe. But you want to whip up that sentiment, knowing that people are going to fall for those kind of cheap emotional blackmail and get into that. For me, I'm happy that some young people actually read the handwriting on the wall and are saying no to that kind of card being flown on them. So the issue is this, the advice is very simple. Stay on the lane. Do not let such things distract you.
Stay focused.
Stay focused.
Exactly.
We need one another. That's the truth. You cannot do it alone. Call it Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba. By the way, all of the other tribes, they call them minority tribes. I mean, does not like minority tribes. They also exist like human beings like you and me. So nobody should feel more superior nobody is more Nigerian than us. I'm also Nigerian. You are Nigerian. We should be able to appreciate one another and celebrate ourselves. I mean, let us not allow people who are so selfish, so self-centered to fly those cards, because they are going to reap from those disunity that are trying to create among young people. By the way, some persons are not falling for those cheap things. Whoever that will fall, just like Makisha said, people are going to be held accountable. I bet you these people that have been voted in from May 29, people are going to start counting for them. You know, if you just mess up, they'll even chase you out before that day.
You know,
they are now they're ready.
You know, speaking about accountable,
democracy,
and definitely it's not going to be a one-day job.
It's no more business as usual.
So it's going to be a gradual process until it gradually sinks into everybody. Because if we're still speaking about the youth who were hugely affected by tribalism, we also saw youth who were still snatching ballot boxes.
That's another day.
All the warnings.
That's another day.
So, like I said, it's going to be a gradual process. Like, what did they say about Rome? It wasn't built.
It wasn't. Can we
built.
just leave Rome? Let's look at. Okay,
Nigeria was not built in one day.
Abuja, our center of excellence.
It's still being built.
Yes,
all right, Makisha, any final words before we let you go?
Okay, I just want to use this opportunity to say to the youth out there, keep up the faith. Don't be unwavering in this struggle for a new Nigeria. No matter whose ego is bruised or whose ox is affected, we actually do not care. Our message still remains the same. We are building a new Nigeria, and we're fixing this country together, and we're determined to get things right politically. And that is our message, and we're not going to be distracted at any point.
All right.
When it comes to that.
Thank you so much, Makisha Battle, Princess Nina Makauka. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. All right, Onyinye, any final words from you?
Well, just to let our young youth know that, I mean, so far, so good. The system is still running. Let us not use our hands to destroy our system we are trying to build. No matter the how you are provoked, how you're pushed to do the other thing, please remove focus, like Makisha and all of us have said. Do not let anyone remind you that you are from this place or this place. We are one Nigeria, and the last time I checked, coat of arms says unity, peace and progress. So please let us talk about things that actually glue us together, not things that divide us. Tribalism is not one of them. Don't let anybody fly that card before you. Don't fall for that.
Yes,
remain focused
and still
and keep safe.
And still tying the straw from where she left out. Don't let anybody deceive you. The elites in this country are not disturbed by tribalism.
Not all of them.
A lot of them, actually. You would be shocked that this whole tribalism thing that they are pushing down to the youth, the elites of Nigeria are not moved by tribalism. You see them eating from one plate,
mind them.
but they're trying to put it in you. So don't let it happen. And also say no to violence. It's not the way. Don't go destroying lives and properties. Just keep calm. You have done your part by voting. Leave the rest for the proper people and the proper authorities to handle. Don't go destroying lives and properties, please. Thank you. All right, this is where we draw the curtains. Don't forget, Heart to Build initiative has a Facebook page. Heart to Build, HEART2, the figure build, BUILD space initiative. Do well to follow them. If you want to join the NGO, remember it's a non-profitable and non-governmental organization. You're coming to help mankind. You're coming to improve people. You're coming to be the missing link in the lives of people who need a link to fill them up. All right, so make sure you send them a DM if you want to be part of them. It's amazing to be part of an NGO. I have to tell you that at least you get to fulfill a purpose in life. All right, so from are you Father Augustine? I was about to. I cannot forget Father. From Father Augustine Obi, Onyera Afwachuku, and of course our guest today, Makisha. We're saying have a wonderful weekend until next week.
Thank you
Saturday.
so much.
Good evening.